Hello and welcome, you're listening to the CNET UK Podcast. This is episode 415 for Friday the 19th of December 2014. As Noddy Holder famously screamed, "It's Christmas!" And we have a whole lot of exciting stuff lined up, including BT's £12 billion Christmas gift to itself and a look back at the most exciting events of 2014 and some of the coolest gadgets as well. Now, I'm Luke Westaway, filling in for Rich Tranholm. Joining me in our high-tech London studio this week is...
Me, Andy Hoyle, the one that isn't you or Rich.
That's right.
The other one that's on the podcast sometimes. Mm-hmm. Hello, it's me.
Now, it is just the two of us this week, I'm afraid, because Rich has already basically decided that it's Christmas. Even though it isn't yet, we're still working. And we've already had our Christmas lunch, so we're massively full of turkey and Christmas cheer. And as always, we're filming the podcast, so do tune in on CNET or youtube.com/CNET if you don't mind seeing what it would look like if two of the wise men ate the third. All right, but for now, Andy, why don't you start us off with the news?
So some exciting news this week as BT has confirmed that it's currently in plans.
Right.
Wait.
Okay.
To buy EE.
What?
I know,
but
it's just huge.
I don't. But they're both so big.
You have, I know, you have so many questions, and you're right to be shocked, as were we all when this came out. So yeah, it's we originally thought actually that BT was looking to buy O2, and there was a lot of talk that it was in discussions to buy O2 because it basically wants to firm up its mobile offerings. Obviously, BT is the big hitter for home phones and landlines and home internet and stuff, but its mobile offering, it hasn't really got one.
Hasn't got one anymore.
Basically he wants to just, instead of developing one from the ground up, he just wants to buy one. So why not buy the biggest, which is EE. It has the biggest customer database, it has the largest network reach, I believe, and so it's put a price on EE of £12.5 billion.
That's a lot of money.
A whole lot of cash.
Honestly, okay. So is this a thing that's really going to happen, or is it not really a thing that's going to happen?
There is some debate because right now this is only there is only talks that are happening. There is this discussion going on. One of the issues is whether or not the industry watchdogs, people like Ofcom and so on, are actually going to let it go through, because really in business it's not good to have one company so big like BT having such a stranglehold on everything, which it would do. It would have it's such a big presence in home stuff and also in mobile.
Well, yeah, I mean, an EE, of course, recently trying to get into things like TV and stuff. So, and BT already has a TV offering.
Exactly, yeah.
So this would be one mega telco that did your home broadband and your mobile, everything. And
they'd be able to basically
so much
just destroy everyone else. And so in just terms of fair play, these watchdogs are kind of a bit skeptical right now.
So, I mean, is this really going? Is this going to happen? Or is it not going to happen?
Well, that's the thing. There are some discussions. Like, it could be that they just block it.
Right.
Like, it could be that they said no, you can't do it, and then BT may go back to trying to buy O2, as was originally the plan. That could happen.
Yeah, rumored reports.
O2 is smaller, so maybe it'll have fewer objections there. But analysts have said that. In fact, I can quote, says it combines the UK market leader in fixed line with the number one mobile operator. We believe it is unlikely that Ofcom would block the deal, but the combined entity could be forced to dispose of some spectrum assets.
That was an analyst who was speaking to the Beeb.
Yes,
BBC
to the old Beeb there.
So basically the idea there is that BT would be allowed to buy EE, but it would have to give up some of what it has. Because EE has loads of spectrum, right? So it would have to sort of give some out to try and make things a bit more fair. But I think I've got a feeling that this all has to go like through a European regulator, and basically it's really early days.
It is early days, yeah. And that price may change as well, because particularly if they do have to break up EE a little bit in terms of what BT is getting out of that deal, presumably then it will also say, well, actually, if we're not getting what we feel is £12.5 billion of value from EE, let's change the price. If the price changes, then the deal may then change. There are so many things that still could happen at this point.
Swimming in variables.
Yeah,
okay,
swimming but that's exciting for next year.
Is it? Yeah, hooray! More importantly, yeah.
Well, yeah.
What if you are an EE customer? Is something if BT buys the company that makes your phone happen?
Yeah.
Is that going to mean a big thing for you?
Yes and no. It is going to be a big deal, and this is one of the major unknowns from obviously most of our listeners' perspective is, well, what's going to happen, and probably the biggest change they're going to see is just a different logo on the bill that arrives every month, because you are tied into a contract. You are when you take out these contracts, or 12 or 24 months. They are legal contracts, and so what BT won't be able to do, as far as we believe at the moment, is take over your contract, because it's buying EE and its assets and the contracts in its database of customers. It can't come along and turn your £20 a month contract into a £30 a month contract just because it wants to. It would be in breach of that contract. What we don't know yet is whether or not changing the owner of the contract would make the contract itself void. So whether or not when the deal happens, you could say, oh, well, I don't want my contract anymore. I'm going to go to 3 because you've changed.
Presumably BT would only want to buy EE if it was keeping all of its customers. It wouldn't want to. It probably wouldn't be part of the deal if there was any risk that it would sort of let everyone just sort of move away.
Absolutely, and there are already, if you read your contracts, they're pages and pages long. There are a number of sort of little clauses and small prints in there that basically mean that when things like price fluctuations, because they do happen, we've had with T-Mobile and stuff over the years, they
raise
just
prices,
put it up by a couple of pence per minute, which it's a bit annoying, but
they've got leeway, haven't they? They're allowed to sort of raise the price by a certain amount.
Yeah, and I do believe that
the rate of inflation.
Yeah, and I think the sort of behind the scenes corporate infrastructure is basically something that you can't use as a reason to get out. It would have to be an actual change to your contract itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so
but we'll see.
I'll tell you who else, because as you mentioned, this was strongly rumoured that BT might be considering buying O2, thinking of O2 or EE.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of bad news for O2, because now kind of everyone knows that it wants to get bought. But it didn't get bought. And actually, it kind of, when you think about O2, it doesn't really feel like it's been very competitive in the last sort of year and a half or something. It's not exactly been the most sort of out there with 4G deals or anything like that. So, I mean, is the thing to take away from this maybe that maybe something is going to happen to O2? I mean, maybe it'll be bought by someone else. Or
I mean, we can speculate as long as we want and that sort of thing, because it could be the case. We can.
That's
fine.
exactly
We're allowed
what
to.
I want to do.
It could have been bought before, and I don't think it's going to damage its name or anything, because I think the only people who are really going to know about this are the industry analysts like ourselves and our listeners who really know about O2 maybe wanting to be bought. And as long as it's not changing its own service. But you're right, it hasn't been particularly competitive, and particularly when we've got 3 offering 4G for free to all its current users, and EE, like you say, getting into things like TV and stuff as well as part of its offering. O2 isn't quite doing the same amount of stuff. So
we will see what happens next year. Okay,
Yeah.
what else? What other news?
Well, we had flight disruptions of quite epic proportions.
We didn't, did we?
Oh, we did.
Oh.
We did. On Friday, and that was following a technical failure of some of the basically the airplane control systems in the airports. So basically, no planes could take off or land in London airspace for quite a few hours, which does sound all very concerning. It has all been fixed now, apparently. Luke, you know a bit more about what actually went wrong.
Yeah, so what happened was it was air traffic controller NATS, N-A-T-S. They said that there was a technical problem relating to basically their computer systems in Swanwick, which meant that
Good old Swanwick.
Good old Swanwick. Well, not good old Swanwick. Swanwick led in the side down, frankly. But
Where's Swanwick?
Well, I mean, how long's a piece of string? I mean, it's just one of those questions that's literally impossible to answer. I don't know.
Google
Are you Googling where Swanwick is now?
Yeah,
right, well, will you find out where Swanwick? While you're on that, let me tell you that they thought that the whole system was going to be offline for a lot longer than it actually was, than originally was talked about. So they actually fixed it reasonably quickly. But when you think about how many planes are in and out of London every day. Just to give you a sense of perspective, in 2013, Heathrow handled an average of 1,286 flights per day.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, when you think about just sort of a couple of hours offline, it meant that there was huge disruption. As anyone who maybe was trying to fly in or out of an airport that involved London over the weekend will have known.
Like my girlfriend who was flying mere hours after that happened, and there was a momentary bit of panic in my head about, is that going to be okay? Swanwick, incidentally, is down on the south coast. It's near Southampton.
Oh, lovely.
So there you go, if it's the same Swanwick, which I assume it is.
It's nice around there.
Yes.
All right, that's good. But it did all get fixed. So
it did all get fixed, and things are okay now. Things
are okay now?
Things are okay now.
It's okay to end on that note, Andy.
Yeah.
Things are okay now.
I don't need to put in a bit more of a spin just for the sake of it. I can just let that sit nicely like a cool, comforting bath of cream.
Right, let's just leave that hanging there for a moment. What's BlackBerry been doing?
Well,
has it been doing something?
BlackBerry has been doing something. What it's done is today launched a new phone. It's called the Classic, and let me tell you why.
Classic BlackBerry.
Classic BlackBerry. Well, it's because it is very much a classic BlackBerry. It has gone back to its roots on this. In fact, that is a headline of the review that you may have just seen on screen.
I'm looking at the picture of it now. It is. I mean, you do
you're
not
looking at a
need
picture of me right now. My lovely visage. Look at that.
Your beautiful mug. You don't need to be looking, though, to be honest, at the video feed for this, because if you picture a BlackBerry, that's what they've made.
It's exactly that. It has a 3.4-inch square screen, physical keyboard below. It's got fairly sort of mid-range specs, like a dual-core processor, 720p display. It has the physical keyboard, and that is obviously what everybody has always been asking for from BlackBerry. Phones like when it tried to do all touchscreen with the Z10, and that thing did not sell well. Nobody liked it, nobody wanted it. It wasn't what BlackBerry users ever asked for. So it's going back to classic form with this, and it hasn't gone for the high-end carbon weave and metal thing that the Q10 or Q30, one of the two, tried to do, because that phone was really rather expensive. So this is a bit more, does the job. It's for the classic users. It's basically a new Bold. And not even that new, just the Bold re-released for late 2014.
I mean, this was the phone that didn't work the first time. So now it's a few years later, returned to its roots, but you think it might work, Andy, is that right?
Well, I think so. It's actually, it's now knowing what its audience wants, and apparently what its audience wants is quite niche, and it's basically what it used to do.
Right.
Because what we've seen, interestingly, from BlackBerry recently is, of course, the Passport, which is the square BlackBerry phone, completely square, with the wide keyboard. Yeah. And when we first saw that thing, this is just ridiculous. But actually, it kind of makes a lot of sense, because it is super niche and super targeted towards Excel documents and Word users and stuff, because that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's for business and for basically nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, BlackBerry seems to have given up on the mainstream. But, if it can carve out a niche, if it can keep selling phones to whoever the people are who want a perfectly square phone for Excel spreadsheets and on, then, survival is victory, right? In the difficult business
well, quite
world,
for business. So, I mean, it's not even it's absolutely going out for a niche, but then is a dedicated core of business users a niche? I mean, because that's actually still a big market, and it's definitely enough to keep it going. And if you can target things to phones directly for that,
it's also a niche that sort of BlackBerry is struggling to keep as well, because more and more offices are like, hey, bring in an iPhone, who even cares?
You want your own phone, you want all your apps, because that's the main problem why BlackBerry can't go after like the broad audience of people, because it doesn't have the app support, and people want that. That's why Android's doing well in budget phones.
Well, Karma_Guns21 says, haters will hate no matter what. BB is the best and here to stay.
Is it the best?
Yep. It's the best and it's here to stay.
Okay.
Outdoor Fellow, meanwhile, says an enemy should know when it has been beaten and surrender rather than continue to send its soldiers to their certain deaths. BlackBerry, you have been beaten. Stop sacrificing your soldiers in a pointless effort to try and stay relevant. Just lie down and die. Show some honour already, and let your final few faithful supporters be absorbed into an army with a chance of achieving some level of victory and success. That's comment
very negative.
Yeah, that comment went on as well, and I felt like probably the point.
I think you were right to stop it there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's sacrifice. Nobody's dying. It's just people still do want BlackBerry. They want the BlackBerry name around, and if they want it, let them have it.
So we like BlackBerry now. See, underdog when it gets too big again.
It's daft, isn't it? Like BlackBerry's now the underdog, and we had the same with Nokia. We wanted them to do well, but now it's Microsoft's name all over their phones. Like, do we want that?
Goodness, we're
seriously,
fickle.
do we?
Goodness, we're fickle. Okay, all right. So that's the news, and that was looking at this next week. But now we're going to be looking back a whole lot further over the last 12 months. It's the big picture, and we're going to do the year in review. So brace yourself. Well, what a year it's been. We've seen smartphone development finally slow down, letting other exciting gadgets finally get a word in. We'll get to those in a moment, but we've also been asking ourselves some really big questions about how tech relates to modern life, especially here in the UK. This has been a year of big questions, hasn't it, Andy?
It has.
Yes. So in a feature that I am now renaming to Luke's Big Questions, why don't you tell me one of the conversations that's been dominating the tech world this year?
Okay, well, one of the big things, and everybody will probably have heard of it from headlines and everything, is right to be forgotten.
The right to be forgotten.
Right to be forgotten.
What is the right to be
now
forgotten?
It sounds like a big term, and it is.
That's why it's one of Luke's big questions.
Oh, that's why. Cool. Okay, now I understand what you're doing with that article. Cool. So basically what it is that under new EU regulations, it allows a person to request that an article about them can be removed from Google search results.
Right.
Now that has sparked quite a lot of controversy, and because, like most things with the internet, there are arguments on both sides. So on the one hand, for example, if a man had committed, say, an assault in the 90s, which was written about online, then that man may have since served his punishment and righted these wrongs and is apologetic for what he's done, and he wants to put that incident behind him and move on.
Or for example, if he was wrongly accused, there would still be news articles, linking him to a crime that he didn't commit.
Yeah, which could be affecting maybe if he's going for jobs, people are finding this stuff. Absolutely, so that is
that's one side
completely
of it.
Understandable. Yeah. The other.
What's the other side?
The other side. That's what I'm trying to find. Other side argues that it will allow individuals and also companies to request articles to be removed about them that are negative, purely so that they can basically control what's in the public eye. So, for example, there have been a lot of stories, particularly in Britain, about MP sex scandals, expenses scandals, all this sort of thing, and these are important to be in the public eye and to remain in the public eye, to obviously so we're informed about what the government's doing and what MPs are doing, politicians, and this stuff. And yet these are also the sort of articles that could be in line to be removed upon request by the people, which a lot of people have argued that shouldn't happen. That's basically an abuse of the system.
What I think is really interesting about this has been Google's reaction, because you very, very fairly put across both sides of the argument there.
I hope so. Thank you.
I can sort of see both sides of it. I mean, I guess like on a personal level, I guess I fall somewhere in the middle. No one wants sort of like excessive censorship or anything like that. But on the other hand, it seems reasonable to me that if there's information about you online that sort of isn't representative of who you are or what you've done, then you should be able to ask Google to take that down. But Google has not reacted well to this. They called the verdict disappointing when it came. I think it was in May. It was the original EU decision. And then a few months later, Google revealed which countries made the most requests for result changes. 12,000 came from the UK, which is a collection of requests that referred to about 44,000 URLs. Of all requests made across Europe, Google said that 53% were delisted as asked, which sort of suggests that there are a lot of people asking for things that Google was like, oh no. Well, that's the other weird thing about Google's using its best judgment.
Yeah, exactly, and that's Google does with a lot of things. It's quite cagey about the systems and about the process that goes through to remove this. So you can put in the submission, but we don't really know exactly how the conversation then goes about removing this and who's on this panel, because I would think this, if it's an EU thing, this should really go to a third-party panel, perhaps somebody to do with like libel law and the courts. It could be a court matter rather than Google itself making this decision, because we have to basically trust that Google's doing the right thing. And is it removing it for the right reasons.
Well, trusting that Google's doing the right thing is basically what the whole world has spent the last decade sort of doing, right?
We hope.
The other weird thing about this is that it seems to be part of a trend of American, or at least very, very sort of like international kind of non-European countries kind of coming up against these sort of roadblocks in Europe or kind of in the UK. Like another example this year has been tax. We've been talking a lot about Google and Apple and Amazon, just naming some of the tech companies who sort of operate through Ireland, taking advantage of a tax loophole. That means that they operate in the UK a lot but don't pay very much tax.
Or none.
Or none. And it's like, is that fair? I mean, they're sort of, I suppose they're obeying the law as it is written.
It's very much a grey area, that, isn't it? Because technically, they're not breaking any laws, but morally, of course, they're breaking a whole number of moral issues, and that's is this right? But then even that, there are, which we discussed at length before, there are both sides to that. If Apple and Amazon and whoever completely pulled out of Ireland because of changes in tax codes and whatnot, then that's a big number of business and jobs that are at stake.
Of the UK entirely maybe. I mean, would they though? Who knows? Or would prices go? You don't know. But the argument that's sort of made in favour of this is like, we need to encourage businesses to sort of operate in the UK.
Yeah.
But if they're not paying any tax, do we really?
Well, precisely.
Yeah. All right. So, although interestingly, on that subject, in the last few months we have seen one of those tax loopholes, which is brilliantly called the double Irish. Has been closed.
Yeah.
So more exciting change.
Yeah.
All right. Tell
That's
me
a disappointing part of the year's trends. I think that's kind of the negative side. It's not all bad.
It's not all bad. What else is happening, Andy? Is there any glimmer of light? In what's just been the worst year?
Please. That's something. Actually, when I put my head back, there was a nice glimmer of light that comes down onto my face then. So, which I think illustrated my next point quite well, and is of course about 4G. And the 4G basically has really taken off this year. I mean, it's been around since I think 2012 when EE first launched 4G only in London and a couple of other places, I think.
Yeah.
But it's this year we've really seen it spread out. All of the major networks now have a 4G offering that have either rolled into their existing plans. So 3, for example, has just rolled it in. It doesn't charge you anymore. That's been great, and we've seen it arrive in so many more cities. I believe, how many is EE in now? Is it 100?
Oh, it's like all of them. We get a press release, and they're really sort of
these tiny towns
covering
no
off
one
the
knows.
little towns that sort of
nobody even knew was there. Even the people who lived there didn't realise that was what it was called. What?
We have 4G and we live in a town. What's happening?
Who knew?
Well, in April, one analyst firm said that 4G is being adopted globally faster than any previous telecommunications technology, which is nice. And in that same month, in fact, EE, which we've already discussed, boasted it had lured 2.9 million customers to its media services. Wow. That was in April, and that figure hit 5.9 million in October. So
those figures aren't really surprising, because when you think about what 4G actually brings, what better internet connection brings, like it's not just a service, it's access to all your other services. Having 4G may mean that you can Skype your family in a different country, whereas on 3G, maybe you had such a poor connection. People really want this, so it's accessing so many other things. I think also what's been really cool is that we're now seeing the budget networks like GIFGAF and stuff, who offer just super basic, cheap, SIM-only plans. Also getting on board with 4G, because when 4G first arrived, and we were quite negative about it, particularly towards EE. Sorry, guys, because it was so expensive.
Are you satisfied with, because you're right, last year EE launched its 4G network and it was really expensive.
It was a luxury. It was a luxury
thing, and it was they had a mega premium strapped onto it because they were the only network that was selling it. Are you content now, Andrew Hoyle, in December 2014, do you think that EE is more reasonable, or are you disappointed with the competition?
I do think it is more reasonable. I'm not completely satisfied.
Okay.
Not completely.
All right.
But I am almost there. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Not specifically from EE, but from everyone else, because as I say, with 3, with what they've done with 4G is great. EE still is the pricier of the bunch, but it does have the scope to offer. I signed up to Vodafone when it was offering various deals with extra data and Spotify subscriptions, which I'm not actually sure if it's still doing. So that basically brought my contract price down quite a lot. Obviously, with Spotify, I was paying £10 a month anyway. So by getting that for free, basically made my contract £10 cheaper.
So things added Now TV as an option as well, Vodafone. Honestly.
Yes, it is, and you can get Sky Sports too.
Yeah, I love 4G. I mean, I can download an episode of Sons of Anarchy between 2 points on my commute, 2 train stations.
Wow.
Yeah, in minutes.
Isn't that underground though, using Virgin Media's underground London Wi-Fi network?
No, it's not, and that's terrible because the login screen pops up all the time. But we're not going to talk about that, Andy. So don't bring it up again, please. No, that's overground on 3 actually. Okay. Although I've got an unlimited data thing. I wouldn't be downloading stuff like that.
How do you find 3 since it's gone to 4G?
Between 2 and 4.
I quit.
You quit.
I quit.
You quit. He's wandered off. What were you actually asking me?
I don't know. I was knocked off by your brilliant joke. How do you find? Because I had capacity problems with 3 before, with 3G only.
Yeah.
How do you find now? People are moving on to 4G. Do you find that it's a bit more stable?
Yeah, actually, I've found it pretty good this year. But we sort of live and work in central London, which means we sort of are in the place that has priority coverage. Unfairly, of course.
What really excited me, what I thought was great, which is why I'm doing this with my hands.
Your hands are going all excited.
When I went to see Linkin Park at the O2 a couple of weeks ago, O2 sold out, and it was massive, huge. Everyone was there. And I still had full 4G signal on Vodafone, and it worked in a 50,000 seat stadium, and it has never happened to me before. Even on O2 at the O2, I can try and send a tweet or something saying, "Oh, look, I'm doing this, it's fun," and it won't send because too many people trying to do it. But it was amazing. It was brilliant.
I love how deep in your body tissues and bone marrow your geekiness is that you can come home and it's like, oh, how was a Linkin Park gig? Well,
let me tell you.
It was absolutely incredible. I had 4G signal the whole time and it was consistently working. I was watching Homes Under the Hammer on iPlayer. Is that BBC?
Homes Under the Hammer is a Channel 4. No. Oh, no.
Well, you know what? You could have found that out.
I only watch cooking shows.
You could have found that out, downloaded it, and watched it in the time it took for Linkin Park to play the songs that made your childhood come alive.
Oh, they did play a lot of Hybrid Theory. It's brilliant.
Yeah. All right. So those are Luke's big questions. But what are Luke's big products? What are the biggest products of the year, Andy? Tell me some of the best actual gadgets that happened.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's been a year, as every year is. It's a year of amazing products and flagships. We've had new iPhones from Apple. We've had new iPads, we've had a whole host of things.
The Galaxy S5.
The S5, of course, with LG G3. We've had 2 flagships from Sony.
Oh, outrageous.
2.
Cheeky.
That's 1 too many, at least. Although I am actually using one of them, so I shouldn't argue too much. But what I want to talk about in particular, first of all, it is the year of Android Wear and other wearables. We've had it launched, we've had it come into our hands. And for me,
and leave again quite quickly.
Well, come into our hands and actually go on our wrist.
Right.
So actually, it didn't go.
Okay, all right. What's your favourite Android
Wear? Favorite is
thing?
the LG G Watch R, because that to me is really what Android Wear should be. It is. It looks like a watch. It looks nice. It's round. We've talked about this. It's great. It still doesn't really do a lot, but it's only the beginning for Android Wear. Next year, I think it's going to be very exciting for wearables. We have, of course, seen the Apple Watch be announced, but not out.
But
it's not on sale. So, which is why I haven't included it, because that is not a 2014 product. That's a 2015 product.
All right.
Or maybe 2016 if it gets delayed.
So
who knows?
We'll wait for that in the best or maybe even the worst of 2015, but almost certainly the best.
Almost certainly the best. Next up, Galaxy Note Edge from Samsung.
Cool.
Reason being, because finally we're seeing a bit of experimenting in phones. This is why I liked the BlackBerry Passport. It's not just,
we're finally there.
The S5, Samsung's had awful sales of that, and it's had drops in profit and market share and all this stuff because people were just a bit bored that it's the same thing, but again, and the Edge comes along.
Like the edges of it. I know we're talking about the Note Edge. I mean the edges of the Galaxy S5.
It's plastic, like chrome plastic, but chips off. It's not a great phone. It does everything you want. It's it needs a lot of refinement. Actually, the Galaxy Alpha with the metal body, really slim, really nice phone. I hope we see more of that from Samsung.
So yeah, the Edge is cool. You've played with one.
We've had a play, we've had a go. Our review was online.
What did we give it? Did we like it?
We gave it 4 stars. We've said it was really good. It was an interesting
Solid.
idea. I think it needs some more software to work with this Edge thing. But it's just good to see something a bit different. See Samsung actually trying to innovate slightly, even if it's something that doesn't work, because it's tried things like putting a projector in its phone before. And Samsung has always been one to basically, if there's a product that can exist, it will make it and throw everything at the wall, because it's got the budget to, and
make it in 5 different sizes.
Exactly, and see what happens. And the Edge actually, it is different, and it's quite cool, and it's you take one out in the pub and people will ask you about it. It's unusual, a bit different.
All right, so that's watches and phones.
Yep.
What else?
Drones, Luke. Drones is what else?
Drone, no.
Drone, yes.
Drone MG.
Yes, particularly, I'm going to talk about the DJI Inspire 1.
Sorry. No,
so we've seen these brilliant flying machines coming out for so previously drones for filming and things, and to do like these really amazing aerial shots. Well, even if there were drones for, you had to basically rent a helicopter and have a massive budget to get a pilot.
Yeah.
Or BBC started using like those really big 6 or 8 rotor things that cost about £40,000 and have got cinema level cameras strapped beneath. But now we're seeing from companies like DJI with their Phantom Vision 2 drone, which is about £700-800, I think. Easy to fly little quadricopter with a camera, and you can I flew it over Chatsworth and over Chatsworth House. Got this amazing footage, which is just no way you could have got before. And the Inspire 1 is their latest one that they've just announced, and they brought it into our office, in fact, and flew it around. Very cool. This thing shoots in 4K, and it's got stabilization on it, and it's easy to fly, easy to use, and it's bringing this really cool filming techniques and stuff that normally ultra pro level for making blockbuster films into the hands of me and you. Like,
you
could be given that for Christmas, and that's great. Yeah. Hasn't all been good news with drones. We have also had stories about people flying those same drones onto like Heathrow Airport and getting in the way of planes, which of course causes national military panic.
Which is bad.
Which is bad things to do. So don't do that. Or Anyway,
so drones.
That's
what, and we've also, there's one more thing on the list. What's that?
There's one more thing on the list, and that is OLED TVs. Because for me, one of the things I'm very happy about is that we're stop seeing new innovations in 3D and other dodgy gimmicks that I don't think add anything to the viewing experience.
We can stop trying to see both sides of the 3D thing now. We can all admit that it was just always awful.
That it was a bit stupid. But OLED is actually all about image quality. It's about having vibrant colors. It's bright. Black levels are black, so you get high contrast. Good-looking panels, and you've seen plenty in IFA and CES, and you really like them.
I'm a huge OLED fan, and actually, so is David Katzmeyer, who is our sort of TV review head honcho in the US. He reviewed an LG, I think, OLED TV this year, and the headline of the review was "Best Picture Ever." So actually, we're hearing that sort of not everyone is getting that into OLED. That maybe sort of Samsung's not as interested as it once was.
No,
but. OLED TV one to watch. So it's nice that things are sort of finally moving in the old TV world.
I hope so. But I asked, I actually also asked on Twitter, what a bunch of people's favourite products of the year is, just to get a bit of feedback.
And what did they say?
So we had Chris. Well, it's Chris with a K. Hi, Chris with a K. So, was excited about the Microsoft Band, the iPhone 6, and the Samsung Galaxy Note 4.
Okay.
Now, actually, the Note 4 also had this metal edge, so that's quite cool. Christopher Finn actually agreed. He said the DJ Inspire 1 is the thing he's most excited about this year.
Okay.
Ben says he's still loving the Pebble. That's the e-ink smartwatch. The Galaxy Note Edge is novel.
All right.
We agree with that. Eunice says Apple Watch and the innumerable upgrades to 3D printing.
Very
Actually,
cool.
3D printing is a good point as well. We've seen loads of cool things coming out that have been 3D printed and stuff. Jack says the Spork game changer. Not really a 2014 product.
Hashtag game changer. No, but I felt that 14 was the year where the Spork really
came into its own.
This has been the Spork's year.
Yep. Andrew Marty says the Nexus 6.
Nexus 6.
Yeah.
We haven't. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Big phone.
Cool.
Freddie says Android Wear as a whole. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's cool. The mid 70s. That's not a name. That's just. That's a time period.
It is the Twitter handle this person has chosen.
Yeah. It says the Rock You streaming stick.
All right.
And Vidyanand says the BlackBerry Passport is the best announced phone this year.
All right.
So,
There we go.
Yeah, thank
That's
you for that.
loads of cool gadgets. If we've forgotten any, if there's anything particularly exciting that you think has happened this year, do let us know. Our email address is cnetukpodcast@cbsi.com, or you can find us on Twitter or Facebook, and we love hearing from you.
Yes.
All right, that's enough looking back. Now let's do a Christmas quiz. All right, now I know what you're thinking. How are we going to do a quiz with just two people? But I thought, seeing as it's Christmas, can we really do no quiz? Can we leave the listeners with no quiz at all? And the answer, of course, was yes.
My Christmas present, actually from you as well, was I want a guaranteed win on the quiz.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one here.
And you are going to get that guaranteed win.
I win by default.
Although you are not playing for a point on the leaderboards this week. You are playing for a mystery Christmas gift that I'll give to you if I'm happy with your answers. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you quick-fire questions about Christmas and about the technology of this year, and you just answer them as quickly as you can. Okay, you ready? The modern figure of Santa Claus is derived from the Dutch figure. What's his name?
It's
Sinterklaas.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's all right. The difference in inches between the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus is?
0.8.
Yes, very, very good. Good maths. In 1993, Mr. Blobby had a Christmas #1 hit. What was the song called?
I bought that single. I have a home video of me and my brother singing along to that.
We all bought the single, Andy. What was the single's name?
Was it just Mr. Blobby?
Yes, it was. Congratulations. Well done. Very good. The Amazon Fire Phone. We reviewed it this year. How many stars did we give it?
Oh dear, 3?
Correct. Very good. And
That's
finally,
what I would have given it.
In November of this year, elves met in Bangkok to break the record for the most elves in one place. How many elves were there?
1 million.
Yes, there were 1 million. No, sorry. Not that terrible a guess, I suppose. The answer was 1,792.
That's the most they could do.
According to Reuters. I mean, that's a reasonable amount of elves.
It's not. You can just go to... If you... did Elf live with at the O2, you'd get more people dressing up as elves there.
Who would go to Elf? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You did very well, Andy.
Thank you. I thought I did. What do I win? Is it Mr. Blobby?
What you win is this elf hat, which you can wear when we do the feedback. So put it on now, please. It's on. I hope everyone is feeling suitably festive. All right. If you are listening to the audio version, make sure you sort of find the feed on YouTube here because... My goodness, it's
pretty happy about this.
It's just stellar. Oh, yeah. Okay, right. It's time to move on. That's enough Christmas now. Let's find out what you guys have been saying in the old feedback. Okay, Dave Lester says, where does snot come from? Right out the gate there, Dave, with a really, really great question. I don't know.
Then it comes from your nose, obviously.
I don't think anyone really understands it.
No.
I think the important thing is just not to panic and not to ask any questions.
Yeah. Just to leave it be.
Yep, exactly. Murat Kabadag says, best uses for an old computer from 2001 to 2004 era, back when XP was the bee's knees. Best uses for an old computer?
Potentially use it as just a media server, actually. You can maybe hook it up to your TV and just use it to play video files. Doesn't need to do heavy lifting.
No, well...
Store things locally.
You'll be glad to know that, in fact, CNET has written exactly this article. 5 great uses for your old Windows computer.
Was that one of them?
Something we wrote in 2011. It was actually the nervous center of a media center. You could also think about using it as networked media storage or a home security monitor maybe, or just something as simple as a backup storage device.
All good suggestions.
Could also work. Chris Roebuck addresses Murat and says, try Keypod or Ubuntu.
What's Keypod?
What is Keypod? Well, then, in fact, Chris Roebuck follows that comment up with, actually, that's my question. Have you used Keypod or similar? I've just bought one for an old computer, but not really used it yet. Seems to work pretty well for basic stuff. I'm not sure about more demanding apps. So Keypod is this Indiegogo project that raised more than $40,000, which is very impressive. And it's kind of like a little operating system on a stick. It's supposed to cost, I think, just $7, I think. And the idea is you'll be able to take an old, discarded, or potentially non-functional PC and revive it and kind of make it usable. And I think the idea as well is that people will be able to sort of share one old computer, but because they sort of maybe have their own sticks, they can get their own sort of computer experience through it. which
Cool.
is kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But actually, Chris, I have to say, I haven't used one.
No,
but I'd like
maybe
to.
we should.
I'd be interested to. What else have we got? Mike Bat says, why do birds suddenly appear when you're near?
I actually keep birdseed in my pocket so I can smell it.
Yeah, well, that's that answered then. Very concise, Andrew. Well done. Andrew Rimmer says, no questions to ask except to say a big thank you for all the insight and reviews throughout the year. Happy Christmas and a great new year. All right, I think that was a lovely feedback point to end on. And of course,
Happy Christmas to you too, Andrew.
yes, happy Christmas, Andrew. And to all of our listeners and to all of our viewers and to all a good night. But wait, that's not actually the end. If you want to send us some feedback, then you can do it at CNET UK Podcast at cbsi.com. You can see the email address on screen now. Okay, that is it for this week, and in fact for this year. CNET, the podcast will be returning in 2015. 2015 sounds very futuristic. That's the year when Back to the Future gets its hoverboard. So,
Yeah.
we'll probably, next time you see us, we'll be sliding slowly out of shot as our hoverboards tilt unwieldily.
Yeah, we fail to control them.
Yeah.
Actually, beginning of the year, you'll be in CES as well, seeing some of the best tech launches for the year being unveiled in Vegas.
That's right.
So
Producer Mark and I, who you will never see, are going transatlantic to find all of the coolest new technology. So stay tuned to CNET in early January to see what's happening at CES, because it's going to be really cool, and I'm sure that's going to be the first thing we talk about when we come back. All right. Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you, Luke.
And thank you to myself. I think I did an adequate job. And thank you to our producer Mark, who you will never see. Right, we're off to do some really, really last-minute Christmas shopping. Goodbye.